Welcome back to CE5 Minneapolis. I'm back in the garage in South Minneapolis, piecing together the stories that have emerged from this week of training with these 25 very special people and Dr. Greer and his team. And these stories are so deep and so interwoven into all of the events of the week. It's hard to parse them out, and I'm not sure how to tell this story. One of the most difficult parts is to try to define what I experienced internally during this week, because this training is a lot more than looking at the sky for a show from the ETs. It's a lot of hard inner work, navigating in uncertainty in new areas of the mind, facing inner fears, becoming aware of mindsets or belief systems that hold us back from becoming our true self. It's also incorporating a lot of new information. And it's not just information, but becoming emotionally engaged with the true consequences of that information. And by the end of the second day with Dr. Greer, which was Sunday, I really started to get a sense of the true reality on this planet that's been hidden from almost everyone. The fact that this man has endured so much is really unbelievable. You have to remember that Dr. Greer organized the Disclosure Project back in 2001. Full-blown, over 500 military and national security and intelligence personnel disclosing their involvement in the UFO cover-up and all of the manipulations that have come since then. And Dr. Greer was at the crux of all this. He was the architect. He was the one taking and recording the testimony. He has been privy to more of the actual truth than anybody. And because of it, he's been attacked ruthlessly. And you have to remember that these programs and projects that were reverse engineering technologies that they got from downed ET crafts, they've been stolen from us and from being used for the will of the people. So it's amazing to realize that we've had the technological ability to eradicate disease and cancer, for instance, or get us off of fossil fuel, or any of the issues that we're facing in the world today. They've been solved, and they've been solved back in the 50s and before.
With the disclosure issues and scientific electromagnetic and electromagnetic-gravitic anti-gravity and free energy stuff that really should have been established before I was born in 1955. So by the time I entered this planet in June of 1955, all that had already been established and discovered. It's just that our society was so dysfunctional it wasn't able to be actually put into application for the good of the planet and humanity. So I've been trying to help with playing what we say, fixing the timeline, fixing the fact that we ran off the rails.
The sheer scale of this level of corruption is just unbelievable. And the consequences that we all face, humans, ETs, every living thing on this planet, including Mother Earth, is extremely hard to get your mind wrapped around. It's not like I was naive to this all, coming in. I still needed to emotionally internalize and engage with the full gravity of the situation. I'm fortunate that I actually recorded almost all of the entire week. And going back and listening to it again is quite enlightening, actually. As you go through this work, you realize that a lot of it is internal. While you're going through that internal work, you're also incorporating new concepts and information into your intellect. And you have to resolve that very quickly. On Sunday night, something inside of me just came jumping out for everybody to see. For some reason, there is inside of me this sacred respect that I hold for the true nature of humanity and of the human being. I don't attribute the actions of the cabal or the Illuminati that Dr. Greer is speaking of. And I don't believe that the state of humanity today is any indication of our potential, which he wouldn't say either. But my view isn't that mankind needs to wake up or that it's our fault for not taking personal responsibility for the planet. I just know we've been deceived, and we've been deceived for a long, long time. If you happen to be raised in a culture or a community that's been victimized even more brutally than the rest of us by this systemic structural annihilation of who we really are and our connections to each other and to nature herself, then my God, how can I expect you to shake off every single thing that you've been taught and every last bone-crushing lesson that this world has inflicted upon you? I don't know why I was awakened to this reality. Part of it was after I got out of the military, and I suppose that played a big role in it. But whatever it is, I'm there now. And I don't mean to be an apologist, and I don't want to give excuses. I'm just an empathetic person, and I still hold humanity up for humanity's true nature. I don't believe we're violent. We're not greedy. We're not racist. And so I was just trying to honor my sense of humanity and what my role is. One of the other ambassadors at the training you'll meet soon, her name is Britain, and she helped me understand where my deep feelings about Earth and humanity may derive from. It was an interesting discussion that we had. We were discussing what it was that compelled me to overreact when I was faced with more compelling evidence of where humanity is failing. But she sympathized with Dr. Greer's characterization of humanity because that's her perspective as well. And again, like Dr. Greer, for good reason. And at an early age, she told me that she had firsthand knowledge of how cruel humankind can be. And to this day, in her work as a psychic and spiritual counselor, she feels that she isn't of this earth, meaning that her soul is actually born from another star system. And very early on, she was made aware of her spiritual guides that helped her through those dark early days of her youth, and now she does the same things for others. But listening to Britain talk of her intimate experience with some of the worst of humanity was heartbreaking. And as I'm trying to resolve why I feel the need to defend humanity, it made us both think that I'm actually of this earth, that the origin of my soul is here.
We live on a mountain, right at the top, this beautiful view from the top of the mountain. Every morning I walk towards the edge and throw little things out, like car parts, bottles and cutlery, or whatever I find.
Because it had beguiled him for decades. Now, imagine, if you will, reaching eventually the point where the craft itself, if your civilization is at the level of, say, God consciousness, the spacecraft itself is at that level of consciousness, completely transmitting your level of conscious intelligence. That's the sombrero-shaped craft that I sensed was around us. But now we're talking about, there's something that just flew overhead, whitish gray, right above us, just now. And so that's where you begin to realize, wow, this is not your granddad's Oldsmobile. or a Buick. And I think this is what's really a beautiful thing to begin to think about, is that every civilization's technology, when all is said and done, is a reflection of the level of consciousness of that civilization. You see? So right now, the level of consciousness of the aggregate of Earth is still not very developed.
Right.
And look at our technologies: coal, oil, fossil fuels,
Right.
roads that tear up, et cetera, and so on. So it's a very destructive technology, and our consciousness has been all about war and destruction.
Right.
You see? But as you evolve into these states of enlightenment as an entire planetary civilization, all of your technologies wow, reflect that level of consciousness that's been attained perfectly. So that's what we're dealing with here tonight. That's who's here tonight.
But it's not like humans are bad at everything, right?
Just not good at anything.
I don't agree.
No, humans are good at a great deal of many things, but I'm talking about the civilization as a whole. I'm not talking about every individual on Earth.
I
Or
mean,
every
we
individual.
obviously have gifts that, maybe other species don't have. Like, I just have a hard time accepting that we're just inferior at everything.
No, we're not inferior at anything. It's what we've applied. See, in potential, there is no inferior or superior. It's
Well, it just sounds like it the way we've been talking.
No, I haven't said that at all. That's your own projection onto the conversation.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I just like to think about humanity as, evolving and growing, and we also have our own special gifts.
Yes, everyone does. Every single person does. As does our civilization and the beautiful aspects of it. That's why when we do the meditation, I say send out to the cosmos the beautiful aspects that humanity does have, which is actually quite beautiful. And they see that. I'm talking about the dominant paradigm of what's running the earth into the gutter.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't conflate the two. I mean, we have to use some discernment in these discussions. But if you were to step into this world from another world and look at it, yes, there are many aspects and beautiful things people do. There's love, there's music, there's art, there's creativity, etc., and so on. But if you look at how we are as a people living on this planet, it's enormously destructive.
We're underperforming.
Yeah, and so that's there's always this sort of mixture of things. The problem is, in the technological era we're in, we've reached the point where we could really create a destruction on a mass. Well, we are creating a destruction on a massive scale to the earth and the biosphere of the earth, etc., and so on. So that's the big task that humans are faced with, is sort of childhood's in. We need to leave all that behind and really rise up to this full capacity we do have. And that's why people who see that capacity within humans, which are many gifts and abilities, those are the things that need to begin to prevail in our civilization, more than not just one person's individuality. And when that happens, we'll see a very big change on the planet. And that's what we've been attempting to get to over the last 100 years or so. And there have been civilizations on Earth, and my understanding is that, for example, what's called the Shambhala kingdom that existed thousands of years ago up in the Himalayas actually did exist, but it was a specific area where people were very enlightened. It was enormously peaceful, and it was almost like this a micro golden era, but then it kind of fell away. What's beautiful about the time we're entering, I use this expression, we're entering into a day that will not be followed by night. In other words, we're entering into a period where the potential is there, where all of humanity and the earth will become a peaceful and enlightened civilization as an entire planet for hundreds of thousands of years, without sliding back in what the last large cycle was, that there'd be periods of enlightenment and then darkness, it would be lost, and then periods of progress and then slide back down. That is the last yuga. The yuga, or the big cycle that's just opening over the last 100 years or so, is this one of unbroken ascension and development of consciousness and technology and the earth and humanity, to such a point where we become ourselves interstellar, enlightened interstellar beings. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're not there yet.
But I feel like we would be there had our progress not been hijacked. And this is where I still don't know how I feel. And how is it that our civilization, or our capacity as a people, can be judged while we have been under siege and under attack to the point of almost utter annihilation. But I really am glad that I was able to listen to the entire exchange again, because I now know that Dr. Greer was right, and that he wasn't tearing down humanity, yet I was feeling like he was. It reminded me of what happens when a child's parents get divorced and they tear each other down in front of the child. My sister told me this a while back, that when a mother disparages her son's father, she's disparaging her son, because her son is his father. And that just totally destroys the self-worth and the self-image that the child has. And so I felt like focusing too much on the negativity that is the reality of the situation on Earth doesn't really inspire me or motivate me. It kind of makes me feel like I am part of a failing experiment. But I came to this training because I am aware of the problem, and I'm committed to taking action. But it seems that I wasn't ready, and that I needed to understand more fully the scale of the issue, and then see it from the perspective of another civilization, looking at Earth and looking at humanity for signs that we are ready to evolve into a peaceful cosmic community, and accept that reality regardless of how and why it happened. After this exchange, there was a long pause from Dr. Greer. As I came to expect from other nights during the week, he often would find a part of the sky to marvel at and share a story about. But this time, he was silent. And I have to say that as much as Dr. Greer can piss people off with his style and demeanor, he impressed the hell out of me with his depth of compassion. See, he would incorporate other people's perspectives and stories that we share into the narrative of his training and into the content of the meditations and how the training actually unfolds. And this is what Dr. Greer shared after this long stretch of silence.
Now, many of you have probably heard of the Rendlesham Forest event, the landing that happened in, it was 81, in England, Bentwaters. Everybody know that case? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the part of it a lot of people don't know about is when it happened, there were many things that happened over a month or so period, but this one event where there was a pyramid-shaped object that landed and fully materialized and came down, and some of the officers that actually got right up to it had an amazing encounter. And this pyramid left a perfectly square indentation and actually hit and scraped some branches as it came down, and left physical evidence, which the Ministry of Defense in England had covered up until not too long ago. But that particular facility was a thermonuclear weapon facility that was not acknowledged. And so this interstellar craft landed, and the officers that got very close to it, within feet of it, had an experience where this sort of luminous, very tall, slender, sort of light beam, for lack of a better term, floated out through it was like black onyx, like black stone, this pyramid, through the side. There was not like a door that opened, just kind of came through the side and communicated with the officers and said, "We are your descendants from 500,000 years in the future.
Oh, man.
And there are some things happening on this planet that if you don't correct them will mean that your great-great-great-great-grandchildren 20,000 generations from now won't exist." And so people say, well, what does that mean? I say, well, it means that in 500,000 years, even our physical state has evolved to the point where we've become interstellar and have evolved into that form. Because we're talking about hundreds of thousands of years of conscious evolution. But so in this sense, people say, well, was it time travel? In a sense, yes. And that it was a request and a warning from our descendants from 500,000 years from now. So that's what happened at Rendlesham Forest. So that's the part of the Rendlesham Forest event that the officers I've met don't want to talk about publicly because they're afraid of being ridiculed.
I guess we'd better get over this thing about being ridiculed pretty quick here.
Yeah. Well,
Jeez.
yeah, it's hard.
It's hard,
Yeah.
And once again, we are back at this issue of the culture of ridicule and getting over this fear. And seeing time and time again when people that we hold to a high standard, like scientists and officials and military leaders, when the rubber meets the road and they're in a position to get this thing back on track, the same fear that we all feel that holds us back. One of my idols has a saying about suffering. He says that the anticipation of the suffering is far worse than the suffering itself. And now we find ourselves in a place where an entire generation fearing this suffering to such an extent and for so long that their great-great-grandchildren, my 2-year-old son Kai and my 1-year-old daughter Maya, could very well be the generation that is forced to bear the ultimate burden, these 60 years of fear. I pray that we all fix it now. Because what is it that we are so afraid of? Ridicule? So much so that we'd risk planetary collapse. Thanks for listening to this episode of CE5 Minneapolis. Our team is now in the stage of development that we'll start to have events and welcome others into the group and introduce people to CE5. If you're interested, please send us your name and email and send it to info@ce5minneapolis.com. We're really looking forward to sharing this work with you all, including the community organizations. So listeners, please let us know if your local church or a public library, astronomy group, environmental group, favorite band, favorite restaurant, whatever it is, let them know about this initiative and how we can work together. We all have that one or two very precious causes that we hold dear and devote our time to. And I promise you that sharing the news of CE5, and especially doing CE5, will align greatly with your cause. If it's an intellectually honest and one of those forward-looking movements that are all building right now. This thing is for real, and it's not going away. I want to end this episode with a 10-minute guided meditation that's possibly the most compassionate thing that I've ever experienced or heard. In this meditation, we are sending transformative light and love to the very individuals responsible for our predicament on this planet. It's the epitome of compassion. And it's a model for how this new world will actually work. So remember that this change requires our action, but take solace in the fact that action in this regard will be rewarded. And listen as Dr. Greer makes a powerful and subtle promise for those who accept this responsibility and move this work forward. And you don't have to do it by yourself. You'll have help. So listen for it and discover what you can do with this new understanding. If you like the program and you like the vision, please give us a review on iTunes and help other people find it. I'm Paul Riedner. See you on the next episode of CE5 Minneapolis.
Into my wide open throat, I have a recurrent dream. Every time I feel a hoarseness, I swallow warm, glowing lights. My mother and son baked for me.
And as we hold one another, we ask the Great Spirit to bless those on earth and to guide them with a new consciousness and a new heart. And with infinite love and forgiveness, we go across the planet and we send this most perfect light of love and vision of a new world of universal peace to all those within the covert world and powerful projects that have been impeding the development of humanity. And we see, not far from here, the Lockheed Skunk Works in the high desert near Edwards Air Force Base to our north. And we go into the cube in the underground facility and see the scientists and the executives who run the state-of-the-art research facility there. And we connect with them, sending them the most beautiful light of love. And they see us here and are inspired by our spirit and this vision of a new world. And then we go to San Diego, and north of there in La Jolla, the campus of Science Applications International Corporation. And we see within the compartmented projects there people who work on this issue. And we see them being inspired to come forward with the truth. And a new world is facilitated by the extraordinary knowledge they have. And we see Admiral and all of his family and colleagues and those who are younger who came after him receiving this light and this vision. And so too it is sent to me and Nasri and you're on And then we are in Washington, and we see the former National Security Agency and his colleagues awaken to this same vision, as does Dwight Schultz. And then we go to the headquarters of Lockheed Martin in Bethesda, and we see the board and the directors who are tasked with this issue, and they are awakened, and a new light dawns within them of universal peace rather than endless war. And as we go around the world, we see that there are many others who are related to these figures in every country and within large corporations. And so those at Goldman Sachs and the Carlyle Group and the Blackstone Group and Booz Allen Hamilton are all awakened in this light. And the vast power they have today, they see turning to the cause of universal peace, the healing of the earth, and the establishment of an endless civilization on earth that lives in peace and travels amongst the stars. And so, unimpeded by anything on earth, we see this cosmic consciousness and divine love filling each of their hearts and their minds, and a new vision is dawning, and they become enthralled and fall in love and are excited by this vision, and they see the world joining other planets and all the people on earth living in peace and abundance and growing in enlightenment. And all the worlds of light open to the minds of those who dwell on earth. And we see that all of us together travel from here to eternity and back, effortlessly with every breathing moment of our lives. And this beautiful vision supersedes the addiction to power and money and control and secrecy. And we see that this fills their hearts and minds, whether they are awake or sleeping, as we send pure, with the purity of heart, this vision, and ask the Great Spirit to forgive them and to forgive us, and to guide all of us together as we come together as one people to create a new civilization. And we behold in the matrix of consciousness 20,000 generations, 500,000 years of souls preparing and waiting to enter this world. And they are hoping, and they are praying that we will succeed. And the cosmic being stands ready to assist all those who put their effort in this direction. And miracles become a daily event, and all things become possible. Namaste.